Hello everyone, Princess Full Moon Fall here. I was actually going to read the stories myself today, but I can't find my headphones anywhere, so I either lost them or someone borrowed them. Hopefully, I will find them by the next video, but to be honest, it's probably for the best because I ended up getting sick reliving 2020, so I sound amazing.
This story is from the Redditor Mr. Period Blood. So back in 1995, I was 12. I finally decided to play Ouija with my dad. I should preface that my dad used to do a lot of seances and other occult things like tarot. As a result, he had some pretty unsettling encounters he told me about, which I might post about another time. Anyways, we go through the game and we ask the usual questions, and I distinctly remember how unusual the movements of the glass piece felt. It didn't feel like controlled natural movements. Later that night, we started watching TV, and I kept seeing these little green human-shaped figures pop up in the corner of my eye, and when I tried to look directly at them as usual, nothing was there. This goes on for about 5 minutes, and my dad starts laughing and says, "You see them too, huh?" I thought he was trying to scare me, so instead of telling him what exactly I saw, I said, "See what?" He laughs again and says, "Those little green guys." This comment was one of the scariest things I ever experienced to this day, and I never touched Ouija again. That last piece of this story involves going outside with him so he could smoke, and our black inside/outside cat hissed at us and the house, and jumped off the van and ran off down the neighborhood and didn't come back until the following afternoon. He also knew something was seriously wrong. People say Ouija is fake, but depending on who is using it, their openness and location, I think it opens areas that shouldn't be opened. It has been almost 30 years, and that moment still sticks with me, and I have never considered that game again.
This is not the first time someone mentioned little green guys. I read about them before and heard a friend talk about them. She was scared shitless, and she never messed or talked about the supernatural again, as far as I know. To be honest, I have seen some things that I will talk about in the future, but I agree with Mr. Period Blood. I will never mess with an Ouija board again.
This story is from the Redditor Whisper to Me 212. Shortly after we moved in, my brother's friend nonchalantly asked me if I ever noticed the shadow people that live in my house. He stated that one of the shadow people would follow him home after he visited and stare at him through his bedroom window at night. This was extremely unnerving because I had been witnessing strange things, such as hearing something roll around on the floor upstairs or footsteps, even though no one was up there. Something would sit on the edge of my bed every night. I could feel it sit down. Shadowy hands would squeeze my pillow from underneath it. I would watch the hand come up and slide back down under the pillow that my head rested on. Shapes would jump from one shadowed area to another shadowed area, even though no light source changed. And most terrifying was hearing my name called out by an unknown voice. Guttural and deep-toned, always being projected from the dark corners, closets and hallways. One time, I ran into the bathroom and slammed the door shut, trying naively to hide from it, only for it to say directly behind me, "Shutting doors won't help you." I was alone in the house at the time. I moved out shortly after. The rest of my family moved out a few months later. True story.
This is horrifying. I don't know how old Whisper to Me 212 was, but the house I currently live in was my childhood home, and I had these same experiences, and to be honest, I thought it was normal for the longest time until my friends started coming over and thought it was scary, but keep coming back because it was fun or neat.
This is from the Redditor Arm Daniel 519. I'm 39, living in Michigan. This is the story of the first and last time I had sleep paralysis. I had dated someone in the past who dealt with sleep paralysis and night terrors, so I was aware of what it entailed. But until experiencing it for yourself, you can never really understand the dread that overtakes you. It was like a lucid dream. In fact, for a long time afterwards, I debated if it was a real event or not. It was the middle of the night. I'd been asleep, but now was laying, kind of propped up in bed on an angle, with pillows behind my back. I am a grown man, but still sleep with a nightlight. I had a Himalayan salt rock lamp on my nightstand, putting off a warm orange glow. As my Cessnies came about, I realized that even though I was sitting up a bit, I had zero motor function of my body. I was paralyzed from head to toe. This alone was a terrifying notion. As someone who has been blessed with relatively good health through the years, not being able to move was shocking to say the least. Upon this realization, I began to take stock of my surroundings, and as I scanned the room, I saw him. My bedroom is part of an addition to my home, therefore it is a rather oblong shape. My bed was pushed into the corner on one side of the room. On the other side, out of the reach from the glowing nightlight, stood a shadow man. I would describe him the same as many others have described shadow people. He was nothing more than a silhouette, but was more black than all the darkness surrounding him. He stood tall with no features at all, but somehow I could feel his non-existent eyes fixated on me. He never moved, just stood there staring at me vacantly. Instant terror washed over me. I could see his malice and hostility. It felt like he wanted to hurt me. My body went into fight or flight mode, and my adrenaline surged. But there was no moving. I remember trying to will my arms to function, but it was as if they were 10,000 pounds. I could not budge. My consciousness was my only tool. I wanted to scream at the entity. I kept trying to yell, "This is a house of God. You are not welcome here," but it was as if my voice was caught in my throat. Trying to urge the words from my mouth was met with defeat over and over again. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Like a spell had been lifted, I gasped in a huge breath. My body seemed to tense and hugged the bed's mattress. I could move again. I sat up all the way and my head darted around, frantically looking for the shadow figure. It was gone, but it hadn't disappeared. It didn't dissolve into thin air. It merely was there 1 second and not there the next. My heart was beating rapidly, and I took in very deep breaths. I laid back in bed and tried to calm myself. That was a terrifying dream, I thought. But then again, was it? It didn't feel like I had been dreaming. My dreams are usually pretty bizarre. They're never in a typical setting from my life, like a bedroom, and it didn't feel like I had woke up from sleep. You know how you typically have that feeling, coming from dreamland to the waking world, that sense of clarity that you're back in reality. I didn't have that at all. I didn't wake up and open my eyes. It was just as if the event had finished, and now I was laying in bed alone. It was the oddest feeling and stuck with me for weeks after. Eventually, I decided it was not a dream at all. It just felt too real. And I had to wonder if the warm glow from my salt rock lamp was the only thing that night that kept the shadows at bay. This is horrifying, and I had similar experiences. But if it makes you feel any better, I, as a 33-year-old woman, still have night lights in every part of the house. To be honest, that's the worst feeling, is wondering if that was a dream or actually happened, and figuring out that it happened.
Anyway, that's it for today. I hope y'all enjoyed, and hopefully I will find my headphones for the next video. If you have any scary stories that happened to you, put them in the comments. I would love to hear them. I'll see y'all in the next video.